Ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
Fantasy Sports puts you in control of your own team. The Nick Bonsanto Show is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, co-hosted by SFL CEO Zach Stanley and SFL COO Seth Young. The Star Fantasy League Show, on the air.
Make this game your finest hour.
Now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on the Sports Byline USA Network. I am your host, Jonathan Sprung, joined, as always, by SFL CEO, Mr. Zachary Stanley.
Donald, hello. I'd like to welcome our dear friend back from his snowshoeing trip in Pawtucket.
Okay, we've now gone to 3 different places where he's been in the past week. He was first in Omaha.
Dog sledding.
Then he was in Tallahassee, and now he's gone to Pawtucket, the home of absolutely nothing. Welcome back, COO Seth Young.
Yeah, I was learning parkour in Tallahassee, and my snowshoeing trip over in Pawtucket was fruitful.
You do realize there's nowhere to snowshoe in Pawtucket, right? It's just
What
like
are
a
you talking
city.
about?
It's just a city. Where are you snowshoeing?
Obviously, you've never been to Pawtucket.
Oh, really? Because I only live like 20 minutes from there.
You live in Rochester.
Oh,
Pawtucket's
no.
in Rhode Island. That's where I was snowshoeing.
Thank you, Seth, for our geographic listeners. Do we actually have any listeners in Rhode Island? Probably not. Do we have any listeners anywhere?
Ding!
That was a good time for the ding, Scott. We failed. I think we failed there. It's all right. Wonderful timing. We did miss a lot of basketball for being away, but we had some interesting, I guess it was basketball. What happened?
There was some stuff that went on, and there's stuff that I have to complain about, too.
Oh, don't you worry. On today's show, since there isn't any basketball to talk about today, we are going to be reviewing the NBA All-Star Weekend, Adam Silver's first foray into the weekend of ridiculousness.
What a mess.
Yes, I think that's how it's all going to go for us. But we're also going to have a Jonald's mailbag segment because, come on, we can't go one day without having
There's a lot going on here today.
That is actually true, and we are going to break down tomorrow NBA returns for Tuesday.
Welcome back, Seth.
I'm pretty excited. And after the break, we're going to start breaking down the NBA All-Star Weekend. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Nick Bonsanto is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Feel free to tweet the show at SFL Show.
Yeah.
Yes, please feel free to tweet us at SFL Show. We had some interesting people tweet us over the weekend.
I like to chatter. I like the back and forth.
Do you like the twittering? Are you interested in the twittering, Zach?
I'm a tweeterer.
Oh, okay. Because, no, seriously, if you guys tweet us at SFL Show, we give you a lot of good stuff. You get to ask us questions. That's coming up in Jonald's mailbag. You guys are some interesting people.
And
maybe.
bonuses.
Ooh, you get free bonuses, Seth. Do you like free bonuses?
I like free anything.
Yeah, that's true. We're of the kind that likes the free things. That
Of
is
the
true.
kind, what does that mean?
Of the kind. The people that like free things.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Obviously. God, don't try to back
What do you
me
mean
into a-
We're of that cloth.
All right, let's get right to it. NBA All-Star Weekend is something I always look forward to. Some people hate it. Some people love it. I don't know why people hate it. Seth, obviously you're one of those people. You're looking at me with a scowl right now.
It was stupid this year.
Let's start at the beginning. NBA All-Star Friday night, which apparently nobody ever watches. I actually watched all of it. The celebrity game had, I don't know how to put this nicely, 0 celebrities in it this year.
I was surprised, though, how many people were actually intrigued by that game.
Well, you mean like good in it or like people watching it?
Yeah, there were people watching it. I was out at a bar, and there were people that were getting into it. The Secretary of Education played out.
He's been doing that for 3 years.
Yeah,
now.
I know.
He's the best
he
player.
is killing it.
They said Barack Obama, that's actually he makes sure he's on his team every time they play pickup.
I would, too.
He's a
He's a
very
powerhouse.
Justin Bieber played a couple of years ago and basically took over the game.
He did. Now it's the Kevin Hart and Nick Cannon show, and I thought that was one of the most boring things ever.
Oh, speaking of which, how bad of a host was Nick Cannon for this whole weekend? It was just bad. Nick Cannon is pretty good in general, but man, he just
you bad.
I'm not putting him on my fantasy announcing team.
I'm ready to talk a little bit about Nick Cannon when the time comes as we go.
Oh yeah,
through
we'll
this
get there. I was gonna say that's definitely gonna be brought up. Other than that, I think Bill Simmons and Jalen Rose as coaches should have been involved more. Like you have hot mics during the whole game. Like have them talking smack to each other. That's what they do.
I think they should have had everybody mic'd up.
That is very, very. Although
And-
Kevin
and-
Hart,
and you
not
took-
bad.
Especially Kevin Hart.
Yeah, but with the celebrities, you totally could have been like, listen, you got to do this, because this is what we're doing for it, so you can't, blast off with swear words or anything like that. I think it would have been hilarious.
That would have been amazing.
Add Snoop Dogg going back and forth with somebody.
True, and he was actually pretty
Sounds
decent.
great.
All right, the only thing I took away from the rookie-sophomore game is that you see that Waiters against Hardaway Jr. back and forth. They're just like shooting 30-foot threes at each other.
That was definitely the highlight of the game.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad, actually, because that was surely one of the highlights of the weekend in general.
I actually, when I was watching that, I was like, I hope this happens in Sunday's actual All-Star game. Didn't happen.
And I'm a little disappointed in the fact that it was like that. But I will say this, though. Waiters and Hardaway, these are two guys that could, a couple years down the road, be pretty relevant in this league.
Hardaway Jr., man, I'm impressed by him. I really am.
That was a guy that in college you really thought, he could totally get it going. You saw him get it going in individual games. You saw his potential, but it seemed like his heart wasn't in it all the time. And I hope that he continues to grow as a person and his career grows because he's got some pretty big raw talent.
I think it's a hard game to judge. I mean, the rookie-sophomore game and then the All-Star game, nobody played defense.
No, that's not true. They were trying. And in that rookie-sophomore game, it's because they pick teams. Like, it's all about, oh, this guy got disrespected because he was picked, like, 8th. He should have been picked 2nd. Like,
in the fourth quarter last night.
That is, yeah, we'll get to that.
They buckled down.
Yeah, speaking of Timmy Hardaway Jr., we got to see the NBA All-Star Saturday Night started with the shooting star, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. But it actually had this year. Steph Curry played with his dad, Dell, and then Tim Hardaway played with his dad, Senior, which was actually a kind of a cool thing. But outside of that, who gives a crap about this event?
You know what I take out of this? You know the other famous Dell that I really like? Del Paxton. I don't know if he's real or not. I just watched the movie That Thing You Do, so maybe he's real.
Oh, my God. You love to derail segments just by saying dumb
that's
things.
the most amazing jazz player ever.
I was just trying to think of other Dells that I knew, and besides the computer company, there was Del Paxton. And then Dell Computers.
You are my biggest fan.
Is that Del Paxton?
No, that's what he says to Del Paxton in the movie. I can't even believe you bring that up and you don't know what you're talking about.
This is one of the
You're
worst.
useless to me
This is
now.
one of the worst tangents we've ever had on this show.
One of
I know,
I'm
and
gonna
I
do it
actually tried to accompany him in
he's
his
like, no.
horrible joke, and
Yeah,
he didn't know
no
what I was
idea.
talking about.
That's all right. Let's move on. Another thing that made no sense and should be moved on from, the skills challenge. Why did they change this? Why did they have 2 people on a team?
It was a miserable thing. I don't know what Adam Silver was thinking.
I don't think that.
Hold on.
I don't-
Whoa.
If it
Do
ain't
not
broke, don't
blame
fix
this
it.
on Adam
No, the
Silver.
blame for what happened in the All-Star game and the formatting of both this competition and the slam dunk competition had nothing to do with him and was arranged long before he made the switch. So,
Although we
So
can't
it's
say
David
he
Stern's
can't
fault.
say he's completely off the hook. He was the associate general.
yeah,
whatever he was before.
I'm sure he had some involvement with this, but there was pretty much nobody on the air that didn't come out and say how bad that slam dunk competition was.
We're not even at the slam dunk.
I'm
competition.
just waiting
bad.
too
You're
long to
just
talk
like-
to it because this is something I get so excited about every single year, and I have
So
one.
you're getting heated.
I
Zach.
have one cable box in my apartment because the other cable box is here at the office. And I ran into my room, and when I got home, I brought it out into the living room. I hooked it up, getting all pumped up for it.
And it was
I
already
saw
over.
that.
It was already over
It
by
was
the time he did that.
terrible.
What was that Ben McLemore Shaq thing?
No,
what the
Seth,
hell
you
was
do not
that
get
about?
you do not get to derail this segment. This is not what you do.
We're talking about the slam dunk
No,
contest.
we're not. We're talking about the 3-point contest now.
I'm gonna punt
We are
you.
going in order because you did not get to dictate anything. I'm
Order.
sorry. All right, seriously, 3-point contest. The one thing literally they didn't want to happen was Marco Bellinelli getting in the finals because he has absolutely no personality whatsoever.
I actually missed the end of this because I was on my way home.
Okay, this is even better then. He
And
got
so
in the finals, and then they asked him like a couple questions. He's like, I just want to shoot threes. It's like,
I make the
oh.
threes. I shoot the ball. I make the ball. What were you trying to do, Marco?
Were you trying
I
to
was
make the
trying
ball?
to shoot the threes.
So the only funny thing about this whole thing was that the Twitter jokes afterwards. It said, "Oh, since he had 3 rounds in overtime, he's going to be sat on Tuesday out of
Yeah,
the San Antonio game."
Marco Bellinelli was akin to Jason Capono winning, except he can't speak English as well.
I actually thought the 3-point contest was awesome because of the ending there when
he made 7 in a row.
Was it Bradley
Bradley
Beal?
Beal made 7 threes in a row. To
that
end
was so
Yeah,
cool.
That was actually cool.
You didn't think that he was going to come back and do that.
Oh,
and then
no,
all
no,
of a sudden he hits the money ball rack
Again
and
with
just nails it.
the rule changes though, like
When Bradley Beal really gets going, he's one of the most exciting young players to watch.
I completely agree. All right, guys.
Who was the one? Was it Joe Johnson that went really?
Oh my
really
God,
slow
Joe
and missed
Johnson
an
was
entire
the
rack?
slowest human being alive. He needs to just stop
Did
being
he
in the
just
3-point
throw that
contest.
or what?
No, that's how he shoots.
Well,
He's
that's
slow.
the pace that they go in Nets practice.
That's true.
I mean, he was just watching
All right.
his shots.
We're not going to get to the NBA All-Star Game until after the break and early John's mailbag. So let's talk about the slam dunk for the last couple minutes. I know you guys have plenty to say. Have at it.
First of all, I didn't know how bad this was going to be until it really got going, and it started with this whole, like, let's do a big dunk mantra and put this all together and have everybody flying in the air. And it was like, I was overwhelmed with dunks.
Well, how long did they get together?
So there was nothing
I
I could be like, oh, that was kind of good. And then they're like jumping around and whatever. It was too much.
2 good dunks in that competition, as far as I'm concerned. That was Paul George and John Wall.
They were two of the last 3 dunks. Yeah.
Everybody else was terrible. And you know what? They said it on the broadcast. When you miss a dunk and you have 2 more chances to go up and do it, it really just kind of takes the air out of it for me. I mean, if you don't hit it on the first try, give it to somebody else.
John Wall didn't. He made his on the second or third try.
Yeah, but you knew what he was going to do. And he made it on the second try.
No, you did not know what he was going to do.
That's okay to a point, but I don't know. It was just underwhelming for me. And the judges.
Just imagine if it was the regular format and John Wall was in the finals, how that would have lit up the crowd.
It would have been John Wall against Paul George.
And then they've got this whole thing with the judges, and Julius Erving is at the end of the line.
He didn't know how to use his tablet.
Well, yeah, but every time they go, okay, the 2 guys take the East, and then it's like,
yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, he can't break the tie. So what's the use of him even voting?
Yeah, I agree. And the worst part about it for me was that who was the first judge? Dominique Wilkins?
Yeah,
I
it
can't
was
remember.
Wilkins. It was Neek. Yeah.
He went on and on after every dunk, and I just was like, shut up, man. Put up your thing. Let Magic Johnson talk.
That's true. Let Magic Johnson
everybody,
talk.
I mean, I feel like, to me, this is just my opinion, is that the 2 guys that were the bookends of Magic Johnson were just looking for airtime there. And they like to hear their own voice, much like I do, because I'm going on a tangent right here. But Magic Johnson...
I guess we're not going to ever get either of them on the show.
On the break, yeah.
Magic Johnson was really into it, especially when John Wall put up that dunk. And he just held up his east line. He's like, I have nothing to say. That was incredible.
And then he proceeded to Dougie.
That's oh god.
That was awesome.
I actually like Ben McLemore's the theatrics because there really weren't theatrics in this year's dunk contest. I thought that was cool. Obviously, the dunk wasn't very good. If the dunk was John Wall's dunk, you'd be like, "That's amazing."
They didn't know what to do. Shaq came out. He looked clearly
Shaq
confused.
Hates Sacramento. Why would he agree to have a Shaq
The thing
jersey?
is, I don't mind any of this stupid crap when they come out and they try to do these silly dunks and whatever. That's part of the showmanship of the dunk competition.
Like
it was the format that just killed this thing.
Yeah, please, Adam Silver. We're going to talk about this in Jonathan's mailbag after the break, but please, just fix it. How hard is it to
All
fix?
you have to do is go back to eliminating people by the round.
I think they will.
I really, please, Adam Silver, we're begging you on the Star Fantasy League show. Just fix it. Fix it. After the break, Jonathan's mailbag. How excited are we?
Mailbag time.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Keep your radio on.
The Star Fantasy League show is now part of the Nick Bonsanto Show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now. Okay, fantasy sports fans.
There's a letter in your mailbox.
Time to dig into Donald's mailbag for your questions and comments.
Read the mail, read the mail, read the mail.
Jump in the game. Send your questions and comments to the Star Fantasy League's team by tweeting at SFL Show.
Yeah.
Seriously, how is that not the greatest
That's
thing
literally
that
my
ever
favorite intro to any segment in the history of shows.
in the history of radio in
Yes.
general.
Hey,
Just
John,
radio.
what time is it?
It's mailbag time.
It's mailbag
It's good to have you back,
time.
Seth, because you enjoy mailbag time more than anybody in the history of the entire universe.
It's my favorite.
All right, let's get right into it. Father Mahagan writes, what chances do you give the U.S. men's hockey team to win gold, knowing that they have to knock off both Sweden and Canada to do it?
I think that's a good question. I mean, USA.
Of course it's a good question. Father Mahagan asked.
USA has been pretty good, and Father Mahagan, I can't believe you're keeping up on your hockey, but it's definitely going to be a tough road. And that game against Russia was one of the best games I've ever seen on an international level. I think carrying that momentum, we have a decent chance to beat Canada. That's a game that could really go either way. And Sweden is clearly playing very well. They have Henrik Lundqvist in goal, and he's a brick wall.
So Slovakia barely lost in a shootout to Russia yesterday, I believe it was, which is a little disappointing in my eyes because, well, it's got two sides to it. One, it's great because we dominated them, so it makes us look good. But then we narrowly beat Russia. I think it was just a bad game on Russia, and
yeah, they have to play in the first round.
I think we've got just as good a chance as any of the teams right now. We haven't played a bad game. We dominated both Slovenia and Slovakia. I'm so excited for Wednesday at noon Eastern.
And you just can't hide it?
I can't.
I'm
about to
excited
lose
too.
control?
It's going to be a great game. This is what you look forward to when you have this kind of competition. I mean, USA versus Canada. This is the rivalry, right? For hockey, anyway. For us,
I'm
Well,
glad.
we have to actually get to play Canada first.
All right, I'm sure
are gonna
we're
play
gonna start talking about these games as the week goes on, but let's move on.
Not first.
Scott, the producer, writes, apparently Richie Incognito is opening his mouth yet again, this time on Twitter. What is he doing? Scott, that's a very good question. We appreciate your email you didn't send us. Do you guys
Given what recently came out about Incognito, I don't even know what to say about this guy anymore. Clearly, he did a lot more things than he let on and said a lot more things that he shouldn't have. And it was almost like he was intent on getting in front of this.
Yeah, but how are you getting in front of something?
Or
Yeah.
he didn't know that this report was going to come out that absolutely shamed him.
so I have some pretty strong opinions
Did
on
you just
this.
raise your hand?
I certainly did.
That's really funny. You can see that if you're watching on YouTube, he raised his hand.
You guys have played sports, right? Clearly. I mean, you've been on teams in organized sports. I played at the college level for some things, and it's when you're in a locker room and you're with those guys all the time, you say things. I mean, you don't necessarily mean them. When you have a close group of friends, say you're a mixed bag. I mean, let's, for example, in high school, I was the only white kid in my group. I had Asians, I had my black friends, I had just, everybody was around me that was not white. And we always made jokes about
I have
our
to say,
ethnicity.
I have to say that I really disagree with you on this. This guy got kicked off multiple teams, got sent away from colleges, got dropped in the draft because of his character. This guy had assault issues. He was a bully throughout pretty much every stage of play that he's been on, and it didn't stop here. And if you look at these texts and how these guys go back and forth, Jonathan Martin is clearly having an issue with keeping up and throwing back to what he's saying to him. I think it's a shame, and I'm honestly not surprised that a lot of people are taking the same stance as I am.
I could see that side of the story, but I genuinely believe that Richie Incognito thought that Jonathan Martin was his friend. Bullying aside and joking aside, I think it was all in good. At least Richie Incognito thought it was probably all in good fun. I've read all of it. I've read the text. I've read the PDF, the transcript. I've read the investigation, and I truly believe that Richie Incognito and everybody else on that team was just, they're just a group of bros. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them. I'm just saying that I understand where they're coming from, and I think that maybe it could have been handled better. But at the same time, it's like, Jonathan Martin, you're a grown man. Say something. Handle it like a man.
And on that note, a group of bros, I think we need to move on to
He got the last word, and I don't like it. I think it was completely inappropriate.
Okay, now Zach has the last word. We're moving on. The ghost of George Steinbrenner writes, now that pitchers and catchers have reported for spring training, please tell me you have the Yankees as favorites to win the World Series. Remember, I'm watching you. I think that one's for you, Seth.
Well, I think the Yankees are going to have a real hard time winning the World Series this year.
Well, George Steinbrenner's ghost just told you that they're winning the World Series. You don't agree with him? And you're a Yankee fan.
And I'm a Yankees fan, too. You know what?
They have no chance, right?
I think that's a fair assessment.
They replaced Robbie Cano with Jacoby Ellsbury and some Japanese pitcher. We don't know if he's good or not.
I honestly think that if George Steinbrenner has this kind of potential, that he may have paid a visit to Hank Steinbrenner to tell him that he's not doing as good a job as he was.
Seriously. And I think, who was it? The GM of the Yankees GM or somebody came out.
Brian Cashman, you don't know the Yankees GM?
No, I'm
really?
not saying the names. Of course I know who Brian Cashman is.
Like,
I'm saying I don't
sad.
remember who came out and said that Tanaka has the, I quote, potential to be
It was Brian Cashman.
a second or third
third. It was
pitcher
third.
in the rotation. What are you paying this guy that much money
Okay.
for if he has the potential to be number
And
2 or
if you're
3?
paying this guy that much money, why are you coming out and saying that? Because you
crazy.
certainly don't want anyone to think it.
Crazy.
Two words, Daisuke Matsuzaka. That's
Daisuke
all I
was
can
fine.
say. No, for
he
1
wasn't.
or 2 years, and then he just he was not worth $100
He was not.
million.
Yeah, he wasn't worth a quarter of what they paid him.
Not even close. We are talking John Old's Mailbag, the best segment in the world on the Star Fantasy League show. Tweet us at SFL Show if you want to ask him some fun questions or be a real emailer. That
Ask
would be nice.
Seth the damn question.
Yeah, ask Seth the damn question. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, ask Seth the damn question.
Moving on, Random Slifkin writes, now that the All-Star break is over, which NBA players should I be avoiding that I might have been relying on just a week ago? This is an injury question, I'm assuming, because obviously in daily fantasy, you're riding some people that are obviously injury bug going on, but now that everyone's rested, who are you basically off, Zach? Just completely off.
Dwayne Wade.
Yeah?
I would hope that if I owned Dwayne Wade right now, that he would go on a week-long streak of dominating and dish him off to somebody else in your league that is stupid enough to pick him up. Because he is going to miss too many games down the stretch. And once we actually get down the stretch where it becomes NBA playoff time in fantasy sports, you're going to be in trouble if you're trying to start Dwayne Wade because they're going to sit him.
So you're looking for somebody out in the West that's going for like a playoff race, or somebody in the top that's trying to get like the number 1 seed, like a Oklahoma City?
I think you can go for that, but I also think that you can go for guys that aren't really playing for anything because they're going to play hard anyways, especially younger guys. They always give it 110%. They have to. They're working for longer contracts in the future, stuff like that. I think there's multiple ways you can go.
So you think that Urson is a good pickup then?
Oh my God!
Is that what you're saying?
How do you get to Urson, Minnesota Timberwolf, Ilyasova? How do you get onto
Urson,
him?
Minnesota.
There you go. Urson, Minnesota.
What about Zach Randolph-Conley? Do you like him?
Sure.
If you guys aren't aware, we actually have a picture of Zach Randolph's head on Mike Conley's body on our wall.
I know I've mentioned this before, but that is one of the most well-done pictures.
It is true. His head is...
It fits... It just works so perfectly.
No, the reason the head is so big is because I told them, Jason,
I know, but look how he meshed that neck in. It's just...
Yes, that is true. All right, let's move on.
It's a work of art.
Before we talk about the All-Star game, let's quickly get to this. Bill Russell writes, did you hear that LeBron left me off his NBA Mount Rushmore? What is he smoking? He did. He said
Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, they asked him in an interview. Yeah, it was LeBron's Mount Rushmore was Jordan, Bird, Magic, and Oscar Robertson.
By the way, how has this even started? All of a sudden, every NBA player, past and present, is naming their Mount Rushmore. Is that something that's been done before?
They should just have one more player and make it their dream NBA team.
Yeah, I don't understand why you had to have Mount Rushmore. Who said it's just 4 for everything?
I guess everybody's just hanging on
It
LeBron's
should be one
every word.
It should be one from every decade. That's or
By
every
the way,
age.
We were having this conversation earlier, and I don't understand why you say that the Cavaliers' ownership is not good because they're too involved. I really like Dan Gilbert. I think he's hilarious.
Dan Gilbert is a fan above anything else. I don't think he knows what he's doing whatsoever. He acts like a fan. At the draft that one time, he was like celebrating really obnoxiously with the other like owners next to him.
What's wrong with that? What do you think about this, Zach?
I think that there is one major problem on the Cavs right now, and it's not
It's Dan Gilbert.
It stems down from Dan Gilbert, but you get rid of a guy that you had with LeBron James, who LeBron James basically carried his coaching career to the point at which the Lakers would hire him, and then you decide to hire him back.
For like $25
and
million,
that's Mike
too.
Brown, and I have never liked this guy as a coach, ever. And I'm just disappointed that he continues to coach them when they are a team that is actually pretty talented.
They are, but they're not living up to their potential. Speaking of not living up to their potential, our last question from Adam Silver. Oh, look at that.
That's what happens when you're giving the Wall Dang 25 minutes.
It was my first All-Star weekend, and apparently everyone is upset at everything I did. When is David Stern coming back? Please help. That's Adam Silver. Let's talk about the actual game itself. The whole weekend was messed up. I mean, the format changes, the whole East-West thing, it just straight up didn't work, right?
From what I saw, yes, that's definitely true. From what I saw in the first half of this All-Star game was the type of defense that that we have never seen in the All-Star game before. It has been so bad. It's gotten worse every single year. But this year, the shots that were missed were because players didn't make the effort to actually drive the lane and simply dunk it in because they could have done that every single play.
There was no defense in this game.
There wasn't.
None.
I mean, it was like out of the gate, Blake Griffin has 18 points in the first quarter, and all 9 of his makes are dunks.
Yeah,
he missed his 2 shots that were dunks.
It's crazy to say that I was getting bored of the alley-oops.
Oh,
it was so stupid.
I wasn't getting that bored.
Yeah, some of them were fun.
The one over the backboard that Curry threw to Durant was awesome.
How about Steph Curry? We expected him to break the record for most threes in an All-Star game because he's starting. Carmelo actually did it.
And
Steph Curry had
terrible.
Steph Curry was terrible.
I have something to discuss here.
Oh, goody.
Let's talk about James Harden's shirt.
Oh, my God. During the dunk contest, it was one of the most disturbingly awful things I've ever seen.
It was awesome.
It was really bad. Can we please give props to who actually dominated the game, though? Kyrie Irving was dominant.
The numbers that he posted in the second half were ridiculous.
He's had 14 assists, which is more than he's had in his career in any game. That's
embarrassing. Look at the scores.
That's embarrassing.
I don't care about anybody's stat line in this game. It was 165 to 160.
The over-under in this game was 291, and they murdered it.
Yeah, they murdered it. It was one of the most insane things I've ever seen.
Of course somebody's going to have a crazy stat line like that. Nobody's playing defense, and it's just wide open for anybody. I could have had 14 assists in that game.
Wrong.
He'll probably have a very similar game against Philly tomorrow night.
Oh, man, that actually is a pretty good point because after the break, we are going to talk Tuesday NBA. I'm so excited. Normally, you come out of the All-Star weekend going, man, that was fun. Can't wait for next year. Like,
NBA's back, and there's a full slate of games right off the bat.
Yeah, on StarFantasyLeagues.com for Tuesday, we got a big slate of games, giving away a lot of money, especially the $50 free roll you can play in for free. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at starfantasyleagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League show with Jonathan, Zach, and Seth.
Yep.
Hey, look at that voiceover guy. You did it. You got it right for once. Congratulations. It is Jonathan, Zach, and
Every
Seth.
time Nick's here, he can't get it right. Poor Nick.
I know. It's just let him out of his cage. It's really warm in here. I feel like he's getting overheated sometimes.
I would
Seth-
like to. I want to point something out while we're live on the air here.
Oh my
And
God! Wait, we're live on the air.
You
No
said that,
way,
that
Seth.
Shaq hates the Kings,
He does. That is a proven fact.
but he is part owner of the Kings.
Okay, he likes making money more than he hates the Kings.
So you're saying that he hates his team?
Yeah, he's a Laker at heart.
He seemed to be pretty pleased wheeling out Ben McLemore.
Nah,
who,
he
by the
looked-
way, hasn't played very well for his part-owned team this year.
Yeah, you're an idiot, John.
Oh, thank you. And also, let's point out that somebody on Twitter mentioned that apparently John Wall did make his first dunk. My confusion was that he moved up to the mascot and told him to move the ball higher or something like that. That's what I was thinking.
That's two on you.
I know. Thank you, Twitter guy who tried to bash me, and I'm calling you on the air. You're terrible. Whoever you were on Twitter, that guy's terrible.
You get
Turn
the,
off your radio.
yeah, you one guy. You turn off your radio.
you
for
get the
listening.
final say.
I do. That's true.
That's the best part about this.
I wish I had the buzzer that he has in studio, Scott. Just buzz. I just want to buzz things.
I heard Colin Cowherd the other day say that people always want to be right, so they come on the show to tell you how right they are, and then he just knocks them off the air and tells them he's right.
Oops.
So I'm not really. It's a
Speaking
little
of,
hypocritical.
Speaking of knocking people off that aren't right, Seth, we're talking NBA basketball on Tuesday, which means that you don't get to be in any part of this. Did you do your research?
I'm in the lineup.
Okay, you did?
Yeah.
You actually did some research?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to break down all the games that are going on tomorrow. There's 9 on StarFantasyLeagues.com. We're going to break down every game, tell you what we like, what we don't like, what players we're looking towards. For you that are not familiar with the game itself, it's $100,000 salary cap, 2 guards, 2 forwards, 2 centers, 2 utility. That's any player you want. You build your team under the salary cap, and that's how you play. You get some points. If you get the most points, you win. It's pretty easy, right?
I spotted Seth eating hummus today.
Oh, no.
With lentil chips.
I think we are in trouble in the Star Fantasy League's office.
Might want to open the windows.
We don't have any windows. That's depressing. All right, let's get right into it. Seth, do you want to start us off by telling us who you liked tomorrow? Tuesday? On Tuesday?
Sure, absolutely. I really like Kyrie Irving tomorrow, coming off the big game that he had at the All-Star weekend. You know what? He really did make a statement. MVP in the All-Star game, yeah, whatever. I mean, it was a ridiculous game, but still, he was out there. He had some really good plays, and he's playing the Sixers tomorrow. And everybody knows at this point that the Sixers are fantasy gold when you play against them.
They are absolute fantasy gold. And if momentum is anything ever, if people actually believe in momentum, Kyrie Irving is just going to ride it.
For the same reason, I really like John Wall tomorrow. I think that he's going to come out and he's going to really just ride the fact that he had clearly the winning dunk in the slam dunk contest. I really like him. I think he's going to have a good game.
I think it's John Wall did have one good game against them out of their 2 games this year. I think that's a very difficult matchup for him against Kyle Lowry, who right now is at the top of his game. He's really taken over since Rudy Gay left the team, both offensively, and he's kept up his defensive prowess. So I'm interested to see that matchup tomorrow.
That is true. But from fantasy standpoint, I would kind of steer clear of it if you could.
I like Lowry.
Do you really? Oh, John, that's true. John
Yeah,
Wall's
John Wall's
been
middle of the
consistent.
pack, and this has the potential to be a higher scoring game. Yeah, I like the way that he can produce in so many stat columns.
All right, Seth. So you started off pretty good with Kyrie Irving, but then we're not too high on John Wall. Well, who else you got tomorrow?
I don't have my lineup in front of me, but I think Zaza Pachulia is getting the start in Milwaukee.
That's because who was it? The Henson has the
Sanders is out.
Sanders.
Larry Sanders.
surgery.
Henson is probably coming back tomorrow, which takes a little bit away from Zaza.
Well, and not to mention Ilyasova wasn't playing last game, so if he comes back, then you have basically a loaded front court again, and Zaza's not going to get any minutes.
Tell me a little bit about Jarrett Jack.
I thought Ilyasova did play last game. He didn't play the game before.
Did he play the last game?
Yeah, and he did okay.
My apology. I mean, it still works though. If Ilyasova's there, you don't like Pachulia as much because there's more bodies in the front court.
Now, my understanding is that Jarrett Jack has been somebody that has been avoided in most daily fantasy lineups throughout the season. Why is that?
Because he doesn't really like to touch the ball. He doesn't like to make any offensive plays. He's basically out there to be a defender, and he
has-
loses a lot of minutes.
I would say he has very, very inconsistent minutes because Mike Brown has absolutely no clue what he's doing as a head coach. If, say, someone like C.J. Miles is hot,
Well,
Jarrett Jack won't even
that's
see the
what
court.
happens with Waiters.
That's that's why Waiters doesn't even start.
And Waiters will come in after Jack gets like 9 or 10 minutes, and he'll play the rest of the half.
This is very true. The same with Miles. Their minutes are very up and down. That whole team outside of Kyrie Irving and occasionally Verjao and Tristan Thompson are just complete stayaways.
Jarrett Jack's not a guy that produces from a fantasy standpoint, and the only time that he ever does is when he has to substitute for Kyrie and actually has the ball in his hands.
In which
but
case you
even
take
even in those cases, he doesn't always do it.
That is true.
Well, is Verjao coming back tomorrow, or is Tristan
No.
Thompson gonna?
No, Verjao's out again.
Verjao is officially ruled out. I have not seen him officially. You saw that somewhere?
Yes.
Okay, so if he's ruled out, then we could talk about probably Tristan Thompson tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Tristan Thompson, who already had 13 points, 16 rebounds, 19 points, 10 rebounds, both with 2 blocks in those games.
Wow, those are big. Those are big numbers.
Against Philly, and he's had to take over and shoulder more of the offensive load with the injuries that they have. I think that'll be the same case tomorrow night, and I think he'll make a run at 37, 38 minutes.
So
he
when
should,
you
he
have
should produce.
When you have a game like the Pacers versus the Pistons, and you have 2 centers in Drummond and Hibbert that are going against each other, are you avoiding
The
both
Pacers
of
are playing the Hawks.
Wrong game.
Oh,
Yeah,
what?
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Charlotte and Detroit tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's
Charlotte and
exactly what I'm
Detroit, actually, that's a matchup I wanted to talk about inside. You had the right idea. You just had the wrong teams. Not a surprise on your part. But no,
But
seriously.
Roy Hibbert is on the Pacers.
No, that he had correct. But I think you just had the matchup. No, you're right, Seth. You're right.
Boo!
Charlotte tomorrow is playing Detroit. Both teams are in the bottom third in the league against center, and it's Jefferson against Drummond. Neither plays great defense from a fantasy standpoint. They're both good defenders. They just don't seem to, do much.
I've got to give the big advantage here to Al Jefferson because
The more polished of the two?
Yeah, not only has he been dominating, his offensive game is much more polished, and with him going against Andre Drummond, there's a big chance that Andre Drummond does what Andre Drummond likes
Foul
to do.
the crap out of him.
And fouls early on and gets into trouble. And in that situation, Al Jefferson will just dominate even more.
Well, and the good part is it seems like Al Jefferson's salary is kind of plateauing. He was climbing. Now he's around the high 18s, low 19. That's where he needs to be.
Yeah, and you got to
taken.
step up another 1,000 on StarFantasyLeagues.com to take him over Drummond. I think it's definitely worth it if you're looking for a high-end center.
I actually personally, I'm worried about the fouls. Like you said, he loves to grab people. That's his thing. But if you can get both of them in tomorrow, because I don't like a lot of the big-name guys tomorrow. I'm not a fan. A lot of the matchups aren't really that good. But if you can get both these centers in, I think that's a recipe for a good lineup.
The thing is he's not nearly as quick athletically as some of the other centers, and Jefferson is one of those guys. And so,
Drummond.
and so Drummond, when somebody starts to pass him, he sticks out his arm and runs into problems, and I can see that happening tomorrow
Well,
night.
he's young. He's still like 19 or
Oh, yeah.
20.
Yeah, he's got a lot of growing to do, and he's got huge upside, but I think his salary it's just too much right now.
That's true. But, he was putting up 45-point games. That's exactly what you need
It just comes here and there. Like, it can be every other. It can be 20 and then 40, and, you just don't know what you're getting. Jefferson's so much more consistent.
Yeah, I will admit I was wrong last week. Nick on the show said that Al Jefferson was a good pick. I said he was getting too high in salary. He put up like another 45-point game. But if he's doing that, he's fine. But if he goes around the 35 to 40, it's undervalued for him.
So let me ask you this, because there are a lot of people that are coming back from injury. So I know like a guy like Corey Joseph or Patty Mills are no longer relevant. Nick Calathis is no longer relevant either. Who's good for value?
Actually, I
this
believe
week?
Mike Conley's going to be out again tomorrow.
No, Mike
Really?
Conley's playing.
Is he? Because I was just reading a
They
report
just-
that said he was going to be out
They
again.
just said he's playing.
Okay, so like you said, Nick Calathis is done. He was playing so well, but Mike Conley is the heart and soul of that team. He's the point guard. You can't really get away from it.
I think you got to look tomorrow night. I think you have to look at Randy Foye.
Yes.
And the reason for that is twofold. Ty Lawson is out, but also because Randy Foye's had a couple bad games with him out. He's had some nagging injuries. He's going into the break. Hopefully he's gotten healthy through the break, and I think he can definitely produce tomorrow night in what's going to be a high over-under against Phoenix.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, the number hasn't come out because apparently it hasn't been put out for Lawson's sake, I guess. Lawson's been officially ruled out, right?
Yeah.
I've seen that a couple places. But, yeah, no over-under. It should be about 210-ish, right? That's actually – I'm assuming that's going to be the highest number on the board outside of Cleveland, Philadelphia.
And San Antonio, L.A.
Yeah,
which is 211.
that is true as well. Yeah, there's a couple big numbers. Dallas Miami's high, but I think that game's kind of a stay away, except for maybe one or two guys.
Well, I'm excited to talk about my play of the night.
Wait, you're blowing
of
the
the
lead
night.
again with play of the night?
Oh yeah, right. I usually do that at the end, don't I?
Yeah, man. Why?
Well, who's your play of the night?
Yeah, actually, I'm curious who your play of the night is. Let's. Okay, guys, we're talking NBA Tuesday on Star Fantasy League Show. Tweet us at SFL Show if you got any tips or tricks you want to learn from Mr. Zach, the master of daily fantasy on
Legend.
on StarFantasyLeagues.com. Yeah, he is the legend. All right, who's your play of the day, Zach?
I'm going to say this again. Well, I'm going to give Seth an opportunity to guess who this is.
I know.
Okay?
I think I know.
All right, so in the All-Star game, they were a little worried about his minutes because he's had some injury issues and he was just coming back from injury. He came off the bench and played very well all game, and he is an extremely dynamic passer.
I have no idea.
Okay, it's Chris Paul.
Come on, really, Seth?
Oh, you mean Kyrie Irving's brother?
No, they look nothing
That
alike.
is ridiculous.
One of them is bearded.
I don't know if you've seen the commercials, though. Chris Paul actually has a twin brother.
Cliff Paul.
Ah, he was at the
little
All-Star
brother,
game.
Kyrie Irving. Am I crazy, or does Kyrie Irving look like a younger, just weirder looking Chris Paul?
You are crazy.
You
They
are
look
completely
You're crazy. And honestly, when you brought this up before we actually started on the show, I was praying that you would not say it.
Yeah,
Why?
He brought it up. Let's move along real quick. Okay, my problem with CP3, I love him, by the way. He's going up against Tony Parker, who can't guard a chair. He can't guard the chair that went up against Ejon Leon.
He's
He
going to
just
torch
can't guard
him, and he already has this year. He scored 23 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals.
Well, but my only-
and that was in a blowout.
Yeah, my only problem with that is CP3's salary just boom on StarFantasyLeagues.com. He was last week because he hadn't played that many games. He was like 12, 13. Now he's all the way up to 18,600.
I hear what you're saying, but there were a lot of points earlier in the year when CP3 was above Blake Griffin. And you know that he can put up more fantasy points than Blake Griffin on any given night.
I also like Blake tomorrow.
Of course.
Come on.
But I like Tim Duncan a lot,
I like both of them, actually.
who was produced in both games that they played, 17-11-5, 19-11-4. The Clippers are ranked 24th against power forwards, and Blake Griffin doesn't like to play defense as much as
well, he's
some other
he's
guys.
going to continue his defense he played in the All-Star game against. I think Tim Duncan's a good play. I agree on the CP3. I'm not sure if he's my play of the day, but he's one of my big plays. You know who I actually like for value tomorrow? Ersan Ilyasova. If he plays.
Minnesota.
I like
You
him.
know how I feel about him.
I mean, they're going up against Orlando. I feel like the over-under is 192.5. I feel like that's dangerously low for picking people, but the defense between these two teams is not very good.
Well, my value play of the night is Deion Waiters.
Yeah, I have him listed as well.
And he's at 9,400. And he had 18-6-3 the first time they played. This was a little bit earlier in the year when he wasn't getting as many minutes against the 29th ranked shooting guard defense of Philly. And then he had 24 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals against them, which was his biggest game of the year. And I think he could do something like that tomorrow night. I honestly do. I've been so impressed with what he's been able to do. They're getting more minutes. I'm not sure if Miles is going to play or not.
If he doesn't, then absolutely.
If he doesn't,
put Deion Waiters
then
in.
certainly.
Yeah, nothing.
And there's always the chance in any Philly game that they could get blown out. And in that case, Waiters will only get more minutes.
I say nothing cures what ails you quite like playing Philadelphia. Go ahead.
Seth's
Seth,
raising
quick.
his hand
So
again.
let me ask you a stupid question.
Well, we got 2 seconds, so go ahead.
Why is Philly so bad?
Because they're tanking. They don't care. They are going for the number 1 pick. It's a pretty obvious thing. They just don't. They don't
Bad
want to
coach, bad system.
Everyone's convinced they're leaving.
There's nothing to like about
Well, everyone
anything
on
that
this
you've
team is
seen from
convinced
them.
they're being shipped off at the trade deadline. We're going to actually talk probably as the week goes on about the trade deadline, but we talked about it last week. That entire team might be different next week. We don't know what they're playing for. They might be nothing. And when we come back, we're going to close this up. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Now, back to the Star Fantasy League Show with Jonathan, Zach, and Seth.
We are back and wrapped up here on the Star Fantasy League
turn off your
Show.
radio.
Oh, my God. He's back. He's back from Tallahassee.
Turn it off.
I have to admit, I'm a little bit refreshed about his return.
You know what-
I didn't think I'd feel this way.
Okay, you know what was really funny, Seth? I know you don't listen to the show, but when you were gone last week, we got to the ending segment, and Zach goes, "Turn off your radio." And Scott, our producer, buzzed him because he realized that wasn't as good as you going,
And I
"Turn
said
off
I
your
admitted
radio."
to it too.
I'm like Billy Bean. I don't watch the games.
You
Yeah.
are not like Billy Bean.
I'm just like Billy
No,
Bean.
you are not.
You are just as dashingly handsome as Billy Bean.
Billy Bean is a handsome man.
Is he?
He was played by Brad Pitt. Of course he's handsome. That would play me in a movie? Shrek.
If you're watching the live stream right now.
Broadway musical of Shrek, starring Seth Young.
They made a movie about John. It was called Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Oh my god!
And evidently I'm in that show Workaholics. So
Are you?
that's what I've been told by. I literally have been told by a dozen people at least.
If
They walk up to me at bars and say, "Hey, Workaholics."
If you guys are watching the live stream or if you've seen any of our shows on YouTube, tweet us at SFL Show. Please let us know who we look like. Don't say Harry
I don't want
Potter.
you know what? I used to look like Sally Jesse Raphael when I had a mushroom cut. That's when I was younger.
That is amazing.
It's the truth.
All right, what do we got going on at StarFantasyLeagues.com this week, guys? I know we had a lot of new features unveiled. Tell us real quick.
We've got Tuesday and Thursday free rolls. We just
$50
free rolls, and we have free rolls every day. We just implemented a brand new feature where you can see all your lineups at once, edit, import, export them, and use our universal swap feature, which allows you to switch out the same player that's in any of your lineups for all lineups.
It's just an incredible. I mean, if you're not playing on StarFantasyLeagues.com, you really have to check it out. It really is a one-stop shop for fantasy sports, daily fantasy sports. It's so cool.
And we come out with new cool features literally every week.
That's true. We got a staff of some of the best people in the industry, and they continue to put out good work every single day. I mean, what better can you say? Just get started playing.
I'm excited to go into work every day because I get to help produce all this awesome stuff.
It's not work.
Yeah, that is very true. When you do it, you love it. It's not work. If you don't know, Urson, Minnesota will help you make a better team next time. See you later, guys.
Kidding.